Welcome back to History in Motion, proudly brought to you by Midas. The VPW Spider was originally built and raced in Rhodesia in 1956 by Dr. Byron Moore. Its name is derived from its original VW front and rear suspension and gearbox and Porsche engine. It has a one-piece aluminium body which was built over its cage and is currently running an Alpha 1750 motor. The Pre-66 Sports and GTs, Classic Thoroughbreds, Trans Am, ISP and Pre-84 Sports and GTs are ready to race.
No, she's going all right. I think she's going a bit better than I am. I'm probably a little bit rusty. But you know, it's a bit like getting back on a bicycle and finding my feet again. Lap times seem to be all right. Yeah, we're just tinkering with the car a bit as we do, and hopefully probably only looking for about half a second or so.
How is cousin Franco Scribante doing?
The good news is he's out of his wheelchair, he's walking with his crutches, and if I know him, he's as eager as damn to get back in his race car.
I'm in for a difficult race here with all the chevrons behind me. We're so pleased to be on pole, getting it over the chevrons, but I think we're going to really struggle in the race. But it's going to be a great race, and I'm sure it'll be good fun for the spectators as well as us behind the wheel.
Fun is definitely what it's all about as the drivers ready themselves for the start. Pole position is filled by Colin Clay in his Lola T70 with the chevrons of Jonathan du Toit, Peter Jenkins and Colin Ellison behind him. Mark du Toit with his Lola is in 5th position with Dino Scribante, the first of the Porsches. It's a rolling start and the field run down the main straight side by side, ready to jump into action. The race begins and the green Lola leads the Chevron B8 of du Toit into turn 1. Colin Ellison in his Chevron B19 has moved ahead of Peter Jenkins in his similar machine. Coming into Renexcon and the Chevron B19s are side by side with Scribante inches behind. Roy Campos in Oliver DeLaze's GT40 is also in the mix. Peter Bailey in his Porsche 917 is tucked in behind the Lola T70 of Mark du Toit. Flying down his right comes Colin Frost in the Lucky Strike Porsche 917. He moves ahead of Peter Bailey and starts chasing down du Toit. Nose to tail, the field make their way up to Castro Corner. Jonathan du Toit pushing the GD Racing Lola as they climb the hill. Peter Bailey regains some ground on Colin Frost and has a look down the right-hand side. Up at the tabletop, the battle for the lead is very close. The Lola T70 and the chevrons all pushing hard. Through Kenwood, nose to tail. Jonathan du Toit then challenges Colin Clay for the lead and the pair run side by side through turn 7. Colin Ellison and Peter Jenkins right in the mix as well. Du Toit locks up, and this is all Ellison needs as he dives down the inside and takes 2nd place. Jenkins is quick off the mark and follows Ellison through. Du Toit has now dropped back to 4th. The racing is so close that one little error and you can lose track position that quickly. Colin Clay now also beginning to feel the pressure from Ellison as the chevrons mob the Lola. The GT40 of Roy Campos leads the Lola T70 of Mark du Toit with a Porsche 917 of Colin Frost. The Porsche 911 RSR of Dino Scribante sliding down the inside of Peter Bailey and moving ahead as they climb the hill to Sasol. Through BMW Performance Parts, and Clay is managing to stay ahead of Ellison and Jenkins, but they have not eased up on the pressure. Through Renexcon, Ellison has another look, but he's not quite close enough. Behind them, Peter Bailey sees a cloud of dust off at turn 1. It's Roy Campos who has gone farming and is out of the race. Through turn 4, and Colin Clay eventually succumbs to the efforts of Colin Ellison, and the Chevron B19 moves into the lead. Clay tries to come back at him, but as they catch up to the back markers, he has to drop back. Through turn 5, and Ellison leads Clay and Jenkins past the Alpha of Richard van Zyl and the Marauder of Ben van der Westhuizen. Jenkins now has Clay in his sights. Heading into turn 2, Peter Jenkins moves his Chevron alongside the Lola of Colin Clay, and he moves ahead going through the hairpin. Clay drops down to 3rd position. Mark du Toit is in 4th place, and he's comfortably ahead of the battle for 5th. Colin Frost, Dino Scribante and Peter Bailey are constantly swapping positions and piling the pressure on. Bailey at the back of the train is pushing hard, looking for a way past Scribante. Through turn 7, and he has a look down the inside of the Porsche 911 RSR. The Marauder of Van der Westhuizen is ahead of them. Scribante has to make room as they pass almost 3 abreast. Peter Bailey manages to hold the inside line going through turn 8, and he is side by side with Scribante, putting the power down on the straight and moving ahead. Great racing from the 917 and 911. George Avacomedes in the Ocean Basket Porsche 911 RSR is leading Class C, and he makes his way past Ben van der Westhuizen. Next up, Richard van Zyl. Dropping down the hill to turn 8, it's Colin Ellison who will lead Peter Jenkins and Colin Clay to the checkered flag. It's been a great race with some very close dices, but it was the Chevron B19s who took the spoils. Mark du Toit in his Lola T70 crosses the line in 4th. Peter Bailey hasn't given up yet as he chases Colin Frost over the line, with Dino Scribante hanging onto his bumper. George Avacomedes and Fred Koenig racing to the line for Class C honours, the Ocean Basket Porsche taking the victory this time. Colin Ellison taking victory by just over a second from Peter Jenkins. Colin Frost just 0.2 of a second ahead of Peter Bailey, who was just 0.2 of a second ahead of Dino Scribante, with George Avacomedes half a second ahead of Fred Koenig.
Once again, with Colin and his Lola with the big horsepower versus the lighter Chevrons, it's always fun when you have the different cars racing against each other.
I was right, eh? I was right. They got me. But fantastic. As Peter says, it was a great race. I think we stayed close together, and I think for the crowd it was what they wanted.
I gave Colin a chance in qualifying, but not in the race. Yeah, battling a bit. There's a yellow Chevron right too close behind us for comfort, but it's good fun, man. That's what it's all about. Meant to be fun, eh?
Hopefully Jonathan will be back for race 2, because with the 4 of us in the mix, it was getting quite exciting. But yeah, let's. I think it'll be more of the same in race 2.
Well, first of all, I started 10th on the grid and passed quite a few on the corner. And when Roy went off, we all started clapping and feeling happy about it.
Yeah, it was great fun. Like you said earlier, Roy lost $50 on the bet, but we said cheers. And then I was chasing Colin and Dino, and we had a huge dice. Dino got past me. I slipped him again back with the help of one of the slower alphas. Said cheers, thank you for coming. But I couldn't catch Colin. He was going really well.
Great race. Always tough with the 911 against the 917s. But yeah, I mean, I actually had a very good start, and unfortunately ran out of talent at the top of the hill. So the guys got past me, and after that, as I say, tough battle with the 917s. They're absolute rockets in a straight line. But yeah, I mean, it was a great tussle. I think we were all giggling in the car at the same time when Campos went farming. But yeah, no, I mean, brilliant. Looking forward to the next one.
Dino Scribante didn't have long to wait for the next one as the cars were in formation ready to take the start of race 2. Colin Ellison leads the way into turn 1. Colin Clay trying to gain some ground and Mark du Toit pushing hard. Behind them, Rui Campos leads Peter Bailey, Colin Frost and Dino Scribante. Frost and Scribante running wheel to wheel through the hairpin with Oliver DeLay and the blue GT40 behind them. Down the hill to G&H Transport, and the first 3 have spread out slightly. Peter Bailey, carrying a lot of speed, makes a late move down the inside of Roy Campos into turn 8. A little bit of contact there as Campos closes the door. Looking at the replay, Bailey was very late in the brakes and locked up. Campos taking the racing line touched the late braking Bailey. No damage seems to have been done, and the pair race on. Campos managing to retake his position coming down the main straight. Bailey hot on his heels. Side by side, the pair race to turn 2. Bailey on the inside, Campos on the outside. Bailey pushing hard, but it's the GT40 of Campos who moves ahead as they go through speed and sound sweep. Into turn 1, Cobus Brits in the red, white and blue Datsun Triple S leads Colin Green in the orange Mazda 323. Dennis McBeath in his MPT Sports is just ahead of George Avacomedes, who is lapping Chad Zeduskata in the VPW Spider. Heading into Sassel, and Roy Campos is ahead of Peter Bailey and Dino Scribante. Bailey and Scribante pushing hard, and Scribante tries to take the inside line through the corner, but gets the door firmly closed by Peter Bailey. Colin Frost, who was right behind the Porsche 911, tapping off slightly after that. Into turn 2, and Scribante has another look down the inside of Bailey, and this time he makes it work. Bailey will push hard, but Scribante is pulling away. Side by side, Barry Nell on the Datsun Stanza and Colin Green in the Mazda 323. Nell on the inside makes the most of his position and moves ahead of the Mazda. Green will keep the pressure on Nell as they head towards turn 3. Dennis McBeath in his MPT Sports leads the VPW Spider with Chad Tenduskata at the wheel. These two drivers fighting for Class D honours. Tenduskata keeping the pressure on McBeath. Campos leads Scribante up the hill, turning into turn 5. They run wheel to wheel and the pair run side by side with a slight bump all the way to turn 6. Scribante still on the inside, edges ahead of the GT40 as they power on to turn 7. Barry Nell has managed to stay ahead of Colin Green as the pair run closely through the hairpin. Dino Scribante leads Roy Campos, and Peter Bailey is now having a look. Down they drop to turn 1. Peter Bailey having a look down the outside of Roy Campos, heading towards the hairpin. The Porsche 917 is not close enough to the GT40 yet for that kind of move. Peter Jenkins is right on Colin Ellison's bumper as the lead pair make their way through Renningscon. Colin Clay a little further adrift. Ben van der Westhuizen pulls his Marauder into retirement on the side of the track. Some electrical issues causing the car to cut out. As the faster cars come into some traffic, Dino Scribante still leads Rory Campos and Peter Bailey, with Oliver Delay and Colin Frost not far behind. Bailey kicking up some dust as he exits the hairpin. In the Class C battle, Fred Koenig is ahead of George Avakomides. Avakomides pushing his Porsche hard as the pair race to turn 2. Avakomides cuts to the inside, but Koenig is wise to that and stays ahead for now. Up at the tabletop, Peter Bailey laps Barry Nell. Oliver Delay does the same and continues to chase Bailey. Dennis McBeath and Chad Tenduskata still locked in a fantastic battle as the leaders bear down behind them, coming up to put them a lap down. Ellison still leading Jenkins. Side by side, Avakomides and Koenig crest the hill. Avakomides with the inside line makes it work for him, and he takes the position from Koenig. Dennis McBeath doing everything he can to keep Tenduskata behind him, but it just isn't working anymore, and the VPW Spider moves ahead. A big cloud of smoke, and something has gone wrong on the Chevron B19 of Peter Jenkins. It looks terminal, and he has trailed a long line of oil across the track on his way to retirement in the kitty litter. Not the best end to Peter Jenkins' day, especially after such a great race won. Jonathan Dutoy retiring the Daytona Coupe, his second retirement of the day. Rory Campos leads the lapped VPW through Castrol Corner. Peter Bailey, looking to lap the MPT Sports, moves across to the inside and manages to pick up some oil, almost sending him into McBeath. He manages to keep it together and makes the pass. George Avakomides and Fred Koenig in the Class C battle lead Barry Nell and Colin Green in the Class F battle. Close racing in all classes throughout the field. Coming around the final bend to take the checkered flag, it's Colin Ellison. After Jenkins' exit from the race, Ellison had a rather trouble-free run and romped over the line 13 seconds ahead of second-place Colin Clay. Mark Dutoy came home in third, just half a second behind Colin Clay. In Class C, George Avakomides beat Fred Koenig to the line by 9/10 of a second, and in Class D, Chad Tenduskata took victory over Dennis McBeath.
Colin and I managed to get away from the Lola. We sort of had a plan that if we could get in front of him before turn 2, we'd be able to get away, which we did. And I was catching him a bit. I got stuck in some traffic. I was pushing again to catch him, and then just going into turn 4, the motor let go. Yeah, it is a big one. The next race is in 3 weeks' time, so it's going to be a bit of midnight oil and that kind of stuff to see if we can fix it. I don't know exactly what's wrong with it yet, but we'll have a look tomorrow.
It was pretty close. Unfortunately, George wasn't ready when we left pre-race, so he couldn't participate in the race until a later stage. As soon as I was in no man's land, and as soon as he caught up to me, we had one almighty tussle. A lot of oil in turn 4. George chose the dry line and I chose the oily one, and he got a bit of a jump on me, and then it was just really chase.
But he kept pushing. I'm so impressed. I don't know what else to do to beat him. But it was really good. It was really, really good. I'm just happy for the win. He's a little ahead of me. I missed a race. So all the work I have to do. But we did it today. I'm very happy. Thanks, Fred. It was a good dice.
Absolutely, and I hope we can continue this at Pekisa the next round. To my race support, GT1, yesterday afternoon my gearbox packed up. They worked until late in the night, fitting another gearbox on loan from a fellow racer who happens to be a contender for this championship with myself and George.
Yes.
And he kindly lent me this gearbox. So to all those guys, I tell you, thank you so much. The camaraderie, the spirit amongst these guys is absolutely amazing. Thank you, everyone.
Pete Jenkins. Did he say it was Pete Jenkins?
Enjoyable race. The car lasted, and little 1600 motor. What can I say? Pumped my heart out, and just chased after Barry with a 2 litre, and we enjoyed the race.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The first race was good. My car is very good. I'm not up to scratch to it yet. The second race was terrible. I had my fan belt come off at the straight, at the back straight, and I had to nurse it home. I had to block Colin a little bit. Colin, sorry, my man.
I think Chad has just got the edge on me now. You know, I think it's youth. And he's come up in leaps and bounds, and now he's quicker. That's the bottom line. He's quicker than me now.
I've been chasing Dennis for like 3 years, and it's eventually good to eventually beat him for once. I mean, it's many different circuits. I've been fighting, trying to beat Dennis because Dennis is so flipping fast. And eventually I've caught up, and it's lekker, it's nice. It was a good race.
History in Motion is proudly brought to you by Midas Sport, Gumtree, Mitsubishi Electric and their associated sponsors. Next time on History in Motion, we will have a full report from Pakisa. Don't miss it.